Hello Ynabbers, my name is Jesse Meekum from Ynab. It stands for You Need a Budget. Yes, you do. This is another Whiteboard Wednesday. The topic being, is food eating your budget? Yes, you eat the food, but the food may, in fact, be eating your budget. I recorded a little histogram of my category overspending. This does not include the last year where I have not been tracking spending broken out beyond spending. So it's been a disaster, but we'll get into that some other time. But this is historically where I was at when I used to be tracking groceries separately. And here are my categories, and then here are the overspending occurrences. And that little guy there is the groceries category. Some people end up seeing this more in the eating out category. Food, whatever it is. Easiest way, and this is by far, as far as our workshops go, and you should take 1 or 2 or 5, by the way, just go to ynab.com/learn. But easily, one of our most popular workshops is the one about eating out. About not eating out, but just food. Is food eating your budget, right? And it eats ours. So here was what we did to tackle it. One, and these are pretty common, but you may consider giving it a relook. Number one, eating out versus eating in, we all know, it's far more expensive. So if you can eat in just a little more often, that can be a game changer for your budget. If you have a problem with eating out and you aren't separating eating out from normal grocery spending, you should. That way you can get some good visibility into how things are shaking out, and you can see that eating out is 85% of your food budget, and then address it accordingly. So number one is eat in versus eat out. Obviously, it's a big money saver. Number two, and a lot of people talk about this, you make a list before you go to the grocery store. I have to. Everyone knows the Costco phenomenon where you go in for milk and you come out with rollerblades. You know, that just happens. So you go in with a list, you stick to your list, and everything's good. There's that. There's the meal planning side. We were talking about this yesterday in the Ynab General channel for the team. And people mentioned meal planning, how just planning ahead can be a big difference between buying something that's expensive versus making something at home, versus buying something that's pre-made and making that at home versus making something from scratch. Not only is it cheaper, but it's also healthier. So there's a boost. Other people take the meal planning a step further and actually will make 2. So they'll make one and then freeze the other. So they're doubling and then basically getting their own kind of takeout meal, but they're doing it themselves and they save even more money. So there are methods that you can take and cut your food budget tremendously. Now, there are a few things with which food is correlated. One is how many mouths you feed. So if you're comparing, make sure it's apples to apples. If you and your spouse are comparing your $1,000 eating budget with my $1,000 eating budget, but I'm feeding all of my roommates that are there's 6 of them, then that's not really comparable, but you could look at it per person and see how it shakes out. If you're looking at the size of the person, I only can imagine what it would like if all of my kids were 13, right? That would be different. So there's that. That's a reality, a bit of reality you have to deal with. And finally, at the end of the day, sometimes food, and it is this way in our house, sometimes it ends up being a hobby. And maybe you have a spouse that enjoys the cooking and likes cooking all sorts of different things and doesn't cook for efficiency or for, price per calorie or however that would shake out. Maybe he or she just cooks because they like it. And you have to weigh that a lot when you're doing the evaluation. Suddenly, even though food is maybe just food, for me maybe it's just fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. But for someone else, it's a lot more than just food, right? That was actually a direct quote. So when you're budgeting, when you're evaluating, it's important you recognize that it's not always just about the dollars and the calories, dollars per calorie or whatever it is. It sometimes can be a lot more than that. And food, I think, is one in particular where that can kind of be hiding underneath a few layers. So, how did we fix all of our overspending in groceries? I budgeted more into groceries. And how can you fix that? You can attack it from both sides. You can budget more, just accept the fact that, hey, this is our reality, or you can, make a few attempts at lowering the grocery bill. It's very I mean, it's proven, and there are all sorts of tips and tricks to do it. Take the food, Is Food Eating Your Budget? There's a workshop, that's the title. Take that workshop and discuss it with other people in the workshop. It's live, and you can chat about it. It's led by one of our awesome instructors. And see if you can't ratchet down your food bill by a couple percentage points. That can be a big difference maker. You know if you should, so I don't have to beat a dead horse here. I will see you guys next week.